Welcome everybody, and good evening and good morning, and whichever part of the world you are from. Welcome to this webinar. Welcome, Arun. Thank you so much for doing wonderful session that you're planning to do with us today. I will not burst the bubble here. And just for your information, friends, Arun Wakhlu is our esteemed speaker today, and we welcome him. Please join me in welcoming him. Arun has been from an early age very deeply immersed in spirituality. In fact, in 1991, he took sannyas. So from people from outside India, sannyas is basically training, you can say, or a formal introduction to living from wholeness, with wholeness, and for wholeness, which obviously Arun is a better person to speak about. And while he took that sannyas, he was given a spiritual name as to Swami Amanu Gaurav, which Amanu means no mind, as he recently enlightened me, and Gaurav means glory. So he's also compiling his aphorisms for Southern Evening at the moment. Arun is founder, director, chief mentor of Pragati Leadership Institute in Pune, India. He's also chairman of Pragati Foundation, which is an NGO dedicated to unfolding joy, peace, and abundance. By qualification, Arun is an engineer, and he's a coach, master facilitator with more than 30,000 hours of facilitation and coaching internationally. He's got two major books to his credits. One is Managing from the Heart, and the other one is One Wholesome World. Again, these two books, both of them talk about deep integration of spiritual aspects of life with the temporal in a very balanced way. So I am very excited, Arun, to listen to today's webinar and the insights from it. I welcome you once again. Thank you so much, and completely over to you. But before I hand over to you, announcement for the participants that this webinar is entitled for CCUs. I will be putting a link at the end of the webinar, and you can just copy paste and keep that link with you. Submit the form within the next 24 hours, and we will send you the compiled CCUs in the month of December. So with this, Arun, completely.
Thank you very much, Aishwarya. Great gratitude to you and Rajat and to everyone who's present here. And I'd like to start by welcoming you all with the traditional Indian greeting, which many of you know is Namaste. And what Namaste means is simply that the beautiful consciousness or intelligence that animates every cell of your body, every cell of your mind is exactly the same intelligence that runs all of life, and is also the intelligence that runs this wave on the ocean of life. So if we say you are one wave and here's another wave and all the participants are like different waves on the same ocean, I'm bowing down to this ocean of life, to this ocean of wholeness. And by joining my two hands and bringing them to my heart, I'm really saying, deep down, we are really one. We are all one. Yeah? So that is the start of this webinar, Namaste, a reminder of our wholeness. And I think if you look at planet Earth, you see an extremely beautiful home of all creatures, of all people. You see exquisite balance, exquisite intelligence. You see such wondrous beauty, such amazing creatures, and so on. And I think we are, at least I'm in awe of the intelligence that is manifesting as planet Earth. But thanks to man, and I'm not saying woman because it's more man, thanks to man, we seem to have strayed away from the natural, normal, wholesome, joyous ways that the earth is meant to be. And I think this crisis has been compounded by the kind of changes and disruptions and things that have been brought to bear by our misuse of technology or misuse of things. And I think a lot of our thinking seems to have gone astray. And the final blow of the whole thing was given by Master COVID. But I think change is bringing a new future. I think it's all of us coaches who can facilitate the creation of new futures. I'm very, very grateful to be a coach. I'm grateful to be with the coaching community, because I think coaches catalyze the creation of new futures in individuals, in organizations, in people, in groups, and so on. And friends, as you're aware, I mean, all of you are very seasoned coaches, you're aware that this calls for a shift in thinking. I think I love this quote by Meister Eckhart. And he says, the outer work can never be great if the inner work is small. And the outer work can never be small if the inner work is great. So as coaches, we are really facilitating inner work. I believe that our work is really to create shifts in ways of looking at life, shifts in our beliefs, in our underlying thought patterns, in the way people perceive, in the way they act and feel. I think this is really our work as coaches. It is to create shifts in thinking. And if we create shifts in thinking, we will be able to change the world. Because if the same old thinking continues, you will get the same old results. You cannot get any better results out of the same old thinking. And in a moment, I'll come to mindfulness and presence. But I think the key thing to understand is, unless there's a deep shift in the way we think, in the way we see ourselves, in the way we see other people, there is not going to be a major change in the world, or even an organization, or even an individual life. So the key thing is shift in thinking. Because if you, for example, if the thinking is siloed or fragmented, and our thinking is structured in boxes and boundaries, this thinking will simply manifest as silos of race, silos of skin color, silos of gender, of nationality. I'm Pakistani, that one is Indian. I'm Catholic, that one is Protestant, that one is Ahmadiyya Muslim, this one is Shia, this is Sunni, and orientation. And I think the major troubles in the world today seem to appear from the kind of thinking that has really gripped humankind and that we seem to be prisoners of. I think one important point I'd like to make here is that we cannot change our thinking unless we learn how to transcend our thinking. We cannot change a system unless we can get out of the system. I cannot do anything with the structures of the mind unless I can literally come out of the structures of the mind and begin to see them the way the sky would look at clouds, or the sky would look at traffic on the road below. So as coaches, the capacity to transcend our minds, the capacity to transcend our thinking and thought patterns, to me is extremely crucial, because we cannot transform unless we transcend form. So I repeat that. If I want to coach to transform, I have to learn to be a coach who can transcend form, who can go beyond the mind, who can literally be like the sky you see in the background of the picture behind me. So how does that relate to presence and mindfulness? So let me come to that in a moment. So the mind is full of contradictions. It has all kinds of pulls and pressures, likes and dislikes, cravings and assertions. And I'm not talking only of the coachee. I'm talking also of the coach. It's not as if the coach is someone else. I'm the coach also. I mean, as coaches, our mind also has all kinds of cravings, aversions, desires, identities, likes, dislikes, and so on. And that really brings us to choices. I mean, all the time it's all about choices. What choices do I make? And, how do I really create a space where I can go beyond the contradictions and pulls and pressures and all kinds of things of the mind. And for that, I just want to bring your attention to the sky. If you just look at the sky in this diagram, you see the sky and you see the clouds in front of it. In us, friends, in us, in every one of us, beyond the mind and its choices and likes and dislikes and contradictions and pulls and pressures, is a sky-like space of awareness, which is what mindfulness and presence are all about. Yeah. So just remember this metaphor. The mind is like the clouds, dark clouds, black clouds, white clouds, transient clouds, moving, shaping, shifting, and all that. And beyond the clouds is the space of awareness that is unaffected by the clouds, unaffected by the movement of the traffic on the road, is absolutely peaceful, absolutely calm. And that space of awareness can also be called no mind. It can be called the space of presence. It can be called the space of spirit. You can call it any name you like, but it is pretty much like the sky. And every time you look at the sky, you can remind yourself that within me also is the sky of awareness. So what does all this have to do with coaching? But just before that, let's come to a simple thing, and that is coaching is about facilitation. It's about facilitating a person to make choices for a better life, for a more wholesome life, or be more effective, whatever the coachee wants. And in order to facilitate the coachee, if the coach can learn to operate from that sky-like consciousness, from that sky-like freedom, from that sky-like presence, then I believe, and my experience also shows, that the quality of your coaching is significantly different from coaching that happens through the lens of the mind, where you're still caught up in the ego, that I'm this and I'm an MCC, now I'm going to transform this person, now I will do this and I will do that. It's very, very different, very different. And friends, what I'm going to do is I want to give you a 3-step process of how can I coach from presence? How can I coach from mindfulness? And after the 3-step process, I will give you a few practices that I use that I've used just to illustrate how this works in practice as a coach. And then, of course, for about 15 minutes, we'll have question and answers where Aishwarya will facilitate your asking questions and we can have a conversation. Yeah, so let's begin. So the 3 steps are basically being, seeing, and freeing. So being, can I be that sky-like space of consciousness? Can I be that sky-like space of no I? Can I be that sky-like space of pure, unbounded awareness? And then the second part is, can I see that the coachee sitting in front of me is not broken, is not helpless, is not powerless. He or she is the same unbounded spirit in disguise. Is disguised as a wave. She's an ocean, an ocean of beauty, an ocean of power, an ocean of grace, disguised as a human being who seems to be suffering and has problems and so on and so forth. So can I see? Because your seeing affects the other person. There's a Heisenberg's principle that the way you see something actually creates a field around it. It actually affects the coachee. So when you see the coachee as broken, you're just reinforcing the same thing, no matter how good a coach you are. If you see the coachee as bad or something wrong with her or him, sorry, you're just going to attract more of the same stuff, no matter how skilled or nifty your coaching is. But if we learn to see beyond the brokenness, if we learn to see beyond the shadows. Now, I'm not saying you deny the shadows. I'm not saying you deny all the clouds and say, oh, there's no clouds. There are clouds, but I always will remember the sun behind the clouds. I will always remember that beyond the clouds is the profound consciousness that is life itself. And then as a coach, if I'm being that and I'm seeing that, how do I dance to liberate that? I do not help the person. I can't be on a pedestal and saying, oh, I'm going to help you. No, I'm not going to fix the coachee. No, sorry, there's nothing to fix. She's whole. She's part of the wholeness of life. So I'm not going to help her. I'm not going to fix her. Then what are you doing as a coach? I'm serving her. I'm serving her from one wholeness to another wholeness in a playful way, liberating the wholeness of life. So let's go deeper into each one of these. Let's start with being, and then we'll go to seeing, then we'll go to freeing. So being. So just remember that in the cyclone, whether it's a Taukte or any other cyclone, in any cyclone, there's a central point, which is absolutely still. Completely still. It's uncannily still. One doesn't know that on the one hand, big barges and ships are getting lifted up, 8mm cables are getting snapped like toothpicks. And in the center of this is stillness. What is this amazing thing? I think this is symbolic of the innermost essence of human beings. While there is turbulence and all kinds of things happening on the outside, at our core is a spot of grace, a spot of silence, a spot of profound peace, which is undisturbed by the storm and happenings of the world. So as coaches, can we learn to access that? Can we learn to be that? And what comes in the way of that is our identification with the false notion of who we are. It could be all kinds of identities and any kind of self, any kind of self. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Kashmiri, I'm an MCC, I'm PCC, any kind of identification of clinging to any of those labels is getting stuck to falseness. The word a self anagrams to false. It's amazing. Any kind of self, any self, you name it, and it's false. I'm saying it's just, you stuck on a wave that rises from the ocean of wholeness, you stuck a label and you think you're that. You're not that. You're really the whole ocean. So friends, getting stuck with any kind of identity is one of the problems. And for me, I think a beautiful reminder that, transcend the identity is the cross. I mean, Satya Sai Baba has given this beautiful definition. He says, if you take the vertical limb of the cross as the I, and when you negate that I, when you say, no, that's not I, when you negate that, nothing is left except infinite love. So he says, every time you see the cross, just remind yourself, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, there's just the Holy Spirit. Or to put it another way, if you just remind yourself that I'm not a wave, I'm really the whole ocean, you are transcending the barriers of mind and the ego. And there's a lovely story, one of my favorite stories, this salt doll, a doll made of salt was walking hundreds of miles through the desert and through dusty deserts. And then finally it comes to the shimmering sea. And it asks the sea, who are you? I've never seen you before. Who are you? So the sea says, come a little closer. You'll see. And she goes a little closer and suddenly puts her foot into the water and poof, the foot is gone, dissolved. I said, hey, what have you done with my foot? He says, no, it's all right. Come a little closer. And she goes inside and a wave comes and the salt doll dissolves. And as she's dissolving, she says, now I know who you are. You are I. You are me. And I am you. So friends, like that is really how, once we wake up, once we understand, we begin to understand that we're not really this little self this little I. And that comes in the way of the glorious work that can happen through us. Not because of our greatness, no, but because of the beauty of life itself, right? So going forward, the ego is nothing but made up of past memories and future thoughts. It's made up of a whole lot of past stuff, the memories and the future. And the past is a memory, the future is unknown, it's not even there. And only in the now is the knowing there. So the ego is made up of this, our guilt and regrets and grievances and sadness and bitterness, and that one did that to me, and the future, I'm going to do this, then I'll do this and I'll do that. Yeah. And again, past and future. But if you learn a simple trick, which is that if the ego and the mind are made up of the past and the future, those are the two wings that they fly on, then if you're in the now, there's no past, there's no future. There is just a simple knowing. There's a simple understanding of what's going on here. No judgments, no assumptions, no analysis, no thinking, just pure presence, just pure presence. Now you might say, hey, this webinar is called Presence and Mindfulness. What's the difference? I would simply say that if you are saying, I am being mindful and I will be mindful, you're not really in presence, because there's still an I there. There's still an I there who's saying, I am being mindful. I mean, I've heard this very funny statement by many facilitators that I will hold the space. I said, hello, what do you mean I will hold the space? Either you are there or the space is there. You can't say, I will hold the space, I'm going to do something. It's, in my perception, that's not really what presence is. Presence is simply either you are there holding space and the ego is there trying to do something, or you are absent. And when you are absent, the space is there, the presence is there. Or even, for example, this other thing that I am going to do this and I am going to coach this one. And my request is that if you really want to go into the real depths of conscious coaching or mindful coaching or coaching with presence, drop the I and just come home to the light of consciousness. Come home to the boundaryless, pure, silent awareness and presence of that to whom you owe your every heartbeat, that to whom we owe our every breath. And at this point, I'm just called to invite us to just be still for just a moment. So I'm going to just ring a little bell, and for 1 minute, not long, just for a minute, just relax into the now. Nothing to do, nothing to force, nothing to achieve. Just sit and watch your breathing as if the sky is watching clouds go by. Yeah, so here we go. So when you learn to pause, when you learn to be still, be in the moment, completely, totally, wholeheartedly present in the moment, by and by you begin to access the peace, the power, and possibility of spirit, of awareness, of the divine presence. You can give it any name you like, it's the same thing. And not only do you access this as a coach, but you also facilitate the coachee accessing the same peace, power, and possibility. Yeah, and this is profoundly valuable for coaches, and for several reasons. You'll come to see that in a moment. So what is the way? The way is simply to inquire into who am I? And one of my favorite masters, Ramana Maharishi, he says that no matter what your spiritual path, you can go through any spiritual path. Finally, before you enter the sanctum sanctorum of the highest understanding, you will come to a gate. You'll always come to a gate. You take the Sufi path, you take the Buddhist path, you do Vipassana, you do Gnostic Christian methodology, or any methodology you take. He says, finally, you'll have to get to this gate before you enter the final understanding of the most profound wholeness there is. And what is this gate? He said, the gate is simply the question, who am I? Who exactly am I? Who exactly am I? Can you inquire as a good coach? Can we inquire, take the inquiry inwards and ask ourselves, who exactly am I? Am I this body? Am I this mind? Am I my identities? Who exactly am I? And when you kind of probe into this, you find that your real self is profound silence, emptiness, love, and freedom. It's almost sky-like. It's profoundly sky-like consciousness. And when you look at the earth from the cosmic angle, you realize, my God, how small it is. And there is something that holds up this whole universe. And again, the I disappears. And I love this other quote from Meister Eckhart. He says, God can't come to visit you unless you're not there. I love this quote. He says, God can't come to visit you unless you're not there. God doesn't have to visit anyone. God is already here. God is everywhere, here now. But it is the I trouble of getting identified with the small I that keeps us not seeing the presence of God's grace. And I as in, I can say, oh, it's dark in here. Wherever I look, it's dark, it's dark, it's dark. And say, wake up. It's not dark. You shut your eyes. And shutting our eyes is simply forgetting who we really are. So this is important. And at a practical level, you find that immense creativity is unleashed when you begin to let go of these boundaries, let go of the ego. And that's why children are so full of energy. It's such a joy to see babies, children, full of energy, full of joy, full of compassion, and boundaryless, because they're pure. They're in the now. They are completely in the now. That's why I love playing with children and being with children and teaching them. They're so pure-hearted. And we can be the same if we let go of the mind. And the way to do that is to learn to sit and just witness the breathing, to pause for a while. And you don't have to do it for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You may want to do it, but even 1 or 2 minutes of pausing is enough to connect you to the power and presence and peace of the moment. So learn to pause, friends. Learn to pause. Learn to be still as a coach. Give yourself a practice of connecting with the peace inside, the awareness that sees everything but cannot be seen, the deep fundamental unity of all humanity, transcending our religious, ethnic, geographical, national boundaries, just transcending all those barriers that create so much havoc on the planet, and enjoying silence. There's no such thing as Hindu silence or Muslim silence. or Christian silence, or Jewish silence, or even coach's silence, or coach's silence. Silence is silence. It unifies us. And of course, the profound energy that comes from being in touch with the space of wholeness, which is all of life and also our center. So, just to summarize, being is about connecting with this, remembering that the past is a memory, the future is the unknown, and now is the knowing. And this is the place for me to be, like a sky-like presence, to be the silent witnessing awareness as a coach. Now, don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean that, oh, I'm going to sit there like the sky doing nothing. The coach is wanting to jump out of a window. She's suicidal and I'm going to sit there like the sky. No, I don't mean that. I mean, inside you, deep inside you, there is a peaceful, silent presence, which is watching the body mind do what it has to do out of compassion, out of love, with your professional training or what you learned in PCC, MCC, whatever. But deep down inside, there's no doer really. There's just the silent witnessing awareness. And it comes with practice. Right now, to many of you, this might sound a bit paradoxical, but friends, with practice, with regular practice in silence and asking, who am I? You finally begin to see, get glimpses of this, and then it stays with you. Yeah. So that is as far as being is concerned. Seeing, look beyond the clouds to remember the sky, to remember the sun. I think when I see a coachee, the first thing I do is to remember that this coachee is a profound, sacred being. He or she is a wave on the ocean of wholeness, is another God in the form of another wave, God in the form of coachee. So profound respect for whatever is happening to the coachee. It's all part of the divine plan. It's part of a divine perfection, right? And the other thing is, just to remind you, the reason why a cloud has a silver lining is because there is the sun behind the clouds. So whenever I see a coachee, I always look for things to appreciate in him, things that I'm grateful for. I sometimes invite the coachee into a practice of gratitude. That, can you tell me what you're grateful for? He says, no, I'm going through a lot of trouble. And I'm going, yeah, well, yes, I understand the pain, I understand the suffering, but give me one thing you're grateful for. So see the cloud as something transient, but never forget the eternal sun in the sky behind the coachee's experience and suffering. And they say in Hindi, we say yatha drishti tatha srishti, which means my view of life affects my way of life. Heisenberg principle says the way you see something affects it. So see that, and the Pygmalion effect also says the same thing. That if you, and using this metaphor from physics, if I tune into BBC, I'm not going to get Radio Moscow. I will get BBC on the radio. If I tune into Moscow, I can't get Radio Sri Lanka. So when you tune into the frequency of the divine presence, when you tune into the frequency of compassion, of gratitude and appreciation consciously, by seeing beyond the brokenness and all that, you begin to alter things. So remember, appreciation and gratitude change your seeing. Finally, we come to freeing, and then I'll share a few practices, and then we'll come to question and answer. Freeing means, may this body-mind be an instrument of the facilitation of liberation and growth of the coachee in front of me. That's the attitude, that's the inner stance. And also what I find is that if you're open-hearted, if you're surrendered, if you are listening to the guidance of the heart, guidance of the wholeness of life, you will be guided on what to say, what to do. I mean, I rely a lot on this intuition. A simple way to remember this, if you're tutored from outside, that is tuition. If you're tutored from your inner guru, the wholeness of life, the divine presence, that is intuition. Tuition from outside and intuition from inside. Very, very helpful for coaches. Very helpful, because suddenly you get creative guidance, you get creative insights that never can come from the mind. They are gifts from from the no mind, their gifts from a deeper level. So trust your intuition, trust your inner guidance, but that will happen only when you're listening, and you can't listen if you're silent, if you're not silent. Second thing is, be like an empty flute. The empty flute is a metaphor for the divine playing the music through you. I mean, we say Lord Krishna plays the flute. And when beautiful things happen, we don't say, oh, flute, what a lovely music you played, what a beautiful raga you played. We don't say that to the flute. We say, wow, Krishna, what a beautiful melody that was. So like that, when transformational coaching happens through you, we don't say, oh, you're a great coach, or what a great coach you are. No, you say, thanks to the universe, thanks to the wholeness of life, thanks to all of life, love in full expression, and all praise to that. So be like an empty flute. I think this calls for radical humility. Do not take your certifications too seriously. Many people said, sir, are you ACC? Are you PCC? Are you MCC? What are you? I said, well, I had an ACC at one time, and then that expired after 3 years, and then I didn't feel like renewing it. They said, oh, so therefore, what are you now? I said, I am CCC. They said, what? CCC? We've never heard this. What is that? I said, it means cool, compassionate coach. Oh, wonderful. Sir, how can we get this degree? We are already MCC. How can we get CCC? Anyway, but jokes aside, don't take yourself too seriously. Rule number 6, remember, don't take yourself too seriously. And if you say, oh, what are the other 5 rules? If rule number 6 is don't take yourself too seriously, then what are the other 5 rules? There aren't any. Humility, friends, radical humility. If you go to Assisi in Italy and go to the grave of St. Francis of Assisi, there's a whole thing there on humility. Humility means complete surrender to life. And say, life, you play the music. You just tell me what you want. It is for your glory, not for my glory. I'm not even there. Forget it. That's just a passing wave for 60, 70 years, and that's it. It is for your glory that I will do coaching, for your grace, for your glory, for your miracles to happen, not me. Idam na mama in Sanskrit. Idam na mama means I'm not there, I'm not there, I'm not there. Namaha, when we say Anantaye Namaha, Anantaye means the infinite, and Namaha means not only I bow down, it also means I'm not there. Namaha, I'm not there. It's only Ananta, it's only the divine Holy Spirit, it's only God. Yeah, so be an empty flute, and that will help you to free. The other thing is, a lovely metaphor I love to use. I said, you're a painter with many colors. Don't get stuck with any color. Just be free. Be an empty brush and say, okay, so if I'm being called to use green, okay, I'm going to use green. Now I wash it and I'm free. Now life says, use red, use black. Boom, I can use red and black. I'm not stuck with any color. And colors are metaphors for ways of dealing with things. It could be tools, it could be processes. For example, people say, oh, many coaches get stuck. Okay, I have to sit across a table comfortably and we talk. I said, what about getting the coachee to get up and move? Oh, no, that's dance therapy. That's movement. I said, hello, just a minute. Who stops you from getting the coachee to get up and embody their problems? No, but that's not coaching. That's dance therapy. That is movement therapy. I said, give me a break. If it helps or not helps, if it serves the coachee, if it enables the growth of the coachee, what's the problem? But many times we get stuck. Even our language sometimes gets stuck. I mean, I hear many coaches talking in terms of, may I ask you, with your permission, I'm curious about this, but could you please help me to understand the deeper assumptions behind this particular feeling that you're feeling? It's contrived. It is stuck with a certain pattern of what an MCC is supposed to do and what coaches are supposed to do. So I'm saying, yes, learn coaching, but then be free to use any color in the color box. And I'll tell you later what are some of the colors that often I use in coaching. Finally, a joker in the pack is neither hearts nor spades nor clubs nor diamonds. It can be a two of spades. It can be an ace of diamonds. It can be a jack of hearts. It can be anything. I think in that emptiness, in that silence, the empty flute, the real coaching happens. That's when the real coaching happens. The real transformational coaching happens. Yeah, so this is about freeing in a very playful way, in a relaxed way. Be free, be absolutely free. I mean, it doesn't mean be sloppy. Please don't get me wrong. Don't be sloppy. Don't be mediocre. Don't be lackadaisical. Be very, very professional, very thorough, outstanding. Practice everything. Learn about NLP. Learn about ontological coaching. Learn everything and then surrender it all to the divine grace to use in the way that the divine grace wants. Don't be sloppy and say, oh, I'm nothing and now do whatever you like. No, 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 no. Be very, very professional, very, very professional. But then surrender beyond the ego, go beyond the mind to the grace and beauty of no mind. Okay, practices, just a few quick ones, just to give you a feel of what can happen. I mean, one is, of course, you can I invite people to sit. Many times I invite the coachee that, with your permission, can we be silent for a while? And the coachee said, sure, we can be. So the coach and coachee sit silently. That's one thing I often do. Secondly, sometimes when we are stuck, we seem to be getting stuck. He doesn't understand what's happening. I also don't know what to say, what to do. We pause. That's another common practice. We pause, we both pause. Said, okay, is it okay if we just listen to inner guidance? Yeah, sure. We pause. That's another thing we do often. The end of the coaching, not only how was, in ICF, we learned that you say, okay, what was the value of the session for you? How was it for you? We ask that question, but we also say, maybe spend 2 or 3 minutes in gratitude, thanking life, and end on a note of gratitude. That's another thing we do. Another thing which I mentioned to you already is we actually use embodiment or use the body in coaching. I do that very often. A CEO who was getting stuck, I said, okay, stand on the bed. We were in a hotel room. I was coaching him in a hotel room. I said, just stand on the bed. So he got up and he stood on the bed, and then I asked him some questions and, okay, now if you get down, what happens and all that. So use the body with its intelligence to facilitate breakthroughs in coaching. The other story I remember, in Australia, there was a group coaching happening, and this lady was saying that, I just can't seem to get over these directors in my organization. They don't seem to, I can't understand why I can't get across to them. So I said, okay, Mary, can you just stand up? So imagine the directors are a big wall. Now show us how you're trying to get across. So Mary jumped, trying to get across, and was frustrated because she just couldn't get across the wall. So I said, okay, Mary, is there some other way you can get across the wall? And suddenly the whole group is silent, and Mary is also silent. And suddenly, miraculously, Mary suddenly got down slowly, and lay on the floor, and she just rolled under the wall. She just rolled under the wall and came out onto the other side. And the whole group spontaneously burst into applause. And she is so happy on the other side. So said, Mary, what happened? She said, I now understand that I have to stand under them. I have to understand them. I have to listen better. I just don't listen. I just try and force myself. Now, this insight happened because we invited Mary to get up. We created a wall, imaginary wall of the directors, and she rolled under it instead of jumping over it, and got an insight that, hey, I have to listen. I have to understand as in stand under, rather than just try to jump over. So, and the last thing is a lot of props. I am very, very fond of using props. So suddenly a roly-poly doll becomes something like a metaphor for resilience, or I love to grab things in front of me and suddenly convert them into something else, because I find that communication works much better. So friends, just to summarize, by being one with life, by seeing life operating in the other, along with its messes, paradoxes, and all that, don't be scared of that. Life is messy, paradoxical, but it is really, really beautiful, because it is love in full expression. It is actually love in full expression. So remember that, be one with that life, be one with that wholeness. Actually, you already are, we all are. We just have to remember it and reclaim it. And in the process, we will find that we bring more love through our coaching. We bring more karuna or compassion with our coaching, and pave the way for creating a new world, a world of compassion, a world of light, a world of love, and a world that works for all people, which works for coaches, organization, employees, the animals, the farms, the forests, the lakes, everything. Okay, so big thank you to you, and over to you, Aishwarya. I'm happy to take questions from whoever would like to ask questions, and I will stop sharing now. Yeah, thank you, friends. Thank you for your listening, and God bless.
Thank you so much, Arun. I am so mesmerized and speechless, and I'm still processing it all inside. It was very deep, very, very profound.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And
My
I can
pleasure.
see a lot of similar comments from the audience. They're all resonating with the similar sentiments. If anybody has a question, can you please put it either in the chat box or in the Q&A? Or if you want to speak, you can also raise your hand, and I will unmute you to talk.
Yeah. Yes. I thanks, Aishwarya. And just to be compassionate to everyone, keep your questions brief. I'll keep my answers brief so that we can cover a lot of people. Yeah. So go ahead. Please.
I think, Agar, did you raise your hand? Would you like to speak? I have unmuted you.
Thank you all for your appreciation. Thank you so much for your appreciation. Really happy to see the appreciation in the chat box. I'm grateful to you and grateful to life. Yeah. And Johnny, yes, whether you call it therapy or coaching or healing or unfolding, don't worry, don't get stuck with the names. It's liberation of your power and potentiality. Yes, please. Who would like to ask a question?
So Johnny saying feels
Johnny, yeah, go for it. Johnny, you want to ask something?
Okay, till the time the audience is processing for questions, I have a question.
Sure, Aishwarya, go right ahead.
So when we listen to these talks, these similar kind of talks, we go into that frame of mind, But eventually what happens when you get back into your day-to-day living, you tend to forget it. And you actually go back into the same routine, and you go back into being yourself, being that false self, getting those identical labels with you. How do you keep yourself on track so that you don't keep falling back into that?
Beautiful question. Very, very beautiful question, Aishwarya. I think the short answer is practice quiet time and silence as a way of life, which means learn the art of just being still and watching your breathing and just remembering who you are. Right now, just to give you a metaphor, if this is a rock, this is the mouse of my computer, but imagine it's a rock and water is falling on the rock, drop, 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 drop. A day comes when a hole is there in the rock. So exactly in the same way, every day, sit for 1 or 2 minutes and just be still, just watch your breathing, but make a regular practice out of it, right? And then how much time is 2 minutes into 5 times a day? What? Nothing. 5 times into 2 minutes, 10 minutes. That's all I'm asking for. Another practice, Aishwarya, is when you're eating, just chew it till it's a liquid. Put your attention on what you're eating. What's the taste? What's the smell? What's the color? How does it smell? Chew it till it's a liquid and then see how it's going down. Again, a simple mindfulness practice that keeps you in the now. And the third practice is gratitude. Thank you, farmers. Thank you, farmers, for growing this food. Thank you, sunlight. Because that gratitude connects you to all of life. It keeps you humble. And you realize that, hey, I'm not, because what keeps us away from life is lack of connection. We don't remember that, my God, if the farmers had not grown the food, where would your food be? If the transporters had not transported, if the sun had not been there. So always, always keep your heart full of gratitude. And that will keep you connected. That will keep you full of compassion and humility. Yeah. And therefore, Aishwarya's short answer is practice, 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 practice. Johnny Joseph.
Johnny,
Yeah.
I have allowed him to speak.
Yeah.
Yes, Johnny, you can speak.
Johnny.
Thank you, Arun.
Oh my God, I love you.
Nice seeing you after such a long time. And
yes.
Arun, I just had a question. Question is, I call myself a coach and I do coaching sessions from morning till evening. That's all I do. I love it. What I'm noticing, and it's now making sense, and I wanted to ask you this question. I am not worried about what's happening to the client. I feel very healed after a session with my client. Is that okay to feel that way?
Oh, why not? Why not? Why not? Absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Because see, remember, Johnny, remember this. I think I'm saying this to all the 80 people present here. Giving is equal to receiving. If you're giving your love and compassion and wholehearted service to the coachee, remember, the universe is doing the same for you, Johnny. So I'm not surprised. I'm not at all surprised that you are healed. I'm not surprised. And why would it not happen? I mean, in Kashmir, where we lived as children, we would take water out of a well, or not with the hands. We had a thing called a dankli, and we'd put the water out. And the more water we took out of the well, the more water would seep in from below. So exactly the same way, Johnny, as your compassion, as your service, as your love flows out to the coachee, the universe will send that to you and you will feel healed. And the universe is so beautiful. It will send you exactly the coachees with exactly the problems that mirror your need for healing. I don't know if you've seen, but over the 30 years I've been coaching, I found that, oh my God, this is my problem. And then when I facilitate with compassion and I get healed. I'm healing myself. So Johnny, beautiful, right track. Surrender to the Lord. Let the Holy Spirit work through you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
God bless. God bless you, Johnny. Thank you so much.
So
yes.
There are a lot of comments. Any question for Arun?
Deepak Deshpande. Deepak Deshpande, can you help him unmute, please? And
yes, Deepak, you can speak.
Yes, Deepak.
Hi, Arun. Good to connect with you.
Yes, indeed. Lovely to be here.
Yeah. So, Arun, just wanted to understand your view. You did mention that it's all about practice, practice, practice. And what is your view? Once we practice anything, it becomes a way of life and gets into our subconscious set of mind where we do it just by default. Whereas coaching is also being more conscious about what we need to do. So what would be the right balance in terms of continuously practicing it, getting into subconscious, or they have been conscious about it?
Yeah. So the practice I'm talking about, Deepak, is not to build more tools into your toolkit. I'm not talking that, oh, there's some new technology, some new way of coaching. I mean, you got enough tools, there are enough tools, enough things. I'm not talking that kind of practice. I'm talking of the practice of transcending the mind and reveling and abiding in the consciousness and awareness beyond the mind. I'm talking of that practice. I said, come home to your heart. Come home to the infinite awareness and consciousness. That's who you really are. Practice that. Practice abiding in that space. And that's the real practice I'm talking about. And from that space, then you can use whatever tools you like, and different colors, NLP, ontological coaching, transformational coaching, or this or that. You can do anything. But most important is come home to who you are, Deepak, and be that light, be that infinite peace and infinite silence. Be that, because that's who you really are. So come home to that love, that compassion. The way to do that is inquiry. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Ask that. Sit silently. Watch your breath. Do Vipassana meditation. Go for a retreat. And all these things will finally take you to a space where you realize that, my God, there's just one self. There is nothing else. There's just one universe. There's one wholeness. And all of this is that. Yeah, so Deepak, and I'm happy to be in touch. But remember one thing, Deepak, if you're sincere, the right books will come to you, the right teachers will come to you, the right webinars will come to you. You just be sincere. You have a burning desire to come home to the peace and silence of the heart. And the rest, the universe will take care of. You take one step, the universe will take 3 steps.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Very, very profound explanation of the
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes,
Mudit,
yes.
Mudit, I have unmuted you.
Yeah. Arunji, thank you very much.
Mudit, yes.
Beautiful session on, with Vedanta, mindfulness, Sufism, everything bundled into all this universal truths.
Thank you, Mudit. Thank you.
So difficult to leave this space. But then you come to, the other part, which is the Western view of trying to build a practice and trying to establish a niche and say that this is what I do. And, I'm a coach who helps you achieve, that's the other end of building a practice. I'm just saying as a, so they seem to be somewhat at 2 ends of the spectrum, unless I'm getting it wrong.
Yeah. Beautiful question, Mudit. Very, very beautiful question. Well, here's a little simple metaphor I'll give you again to resolve this. So imagine that you have an inner male and an inner female inside you. Yeah? And the inner female is connected to the divine grace, is your intuition, is your spiritual side, is the inner female. And the inner male is like a bodyguard who has to protect the inner female and carry out her every command. Now, my request to you is this. Keep your inner female on the throne, put her on the throne, the connection with wholeness of life, the connection with divine grace, put her on the throne of your life. She is on the throne, and make your tools and practices in the Western world the inner man, and put him as the bodyguard and the servant of the inner female. Now, what has happened in the West is the inner woman has been bundled up and put into some cellar. Very few people even know what is the inner woman, and the inner man has gone amok, and he is doing everything, and so we are in a bit of a mess. The gift that India can give to the world is to restore the understanding that the inner woman is the boss. That is, your intuition is the boss. And your body, mind is the servant of that divine understanding. So use your Western tools and technology, use the metaphors, use everything in service of the deepest core of humanity and love and wholeness. And that is primary. That is primary. Put that on the throne. Don't put the inner male on the throne and the inner woman of your intuition and your wisdom is locked up in chains somewhere, sitting somewhere. No. Restore her, bring her back into the seat of your life, and let Shiva or the masculine side of you serve that wisdom, serve the divine grace. Yeah, so Mudit, I hope it helps, is of service in some form. Okay.
No, definitely. Thank you very much.
One last question, Subramanian Iyer, and then we'll close because it's 8 o'clock.
Yes, Rashmi.
Subramanian Iyer. Oh, okay, two.
Okay.
Rashmi. Let's take 1 or 2 if it's okay. We can just spade.
So let's take Rashmi and Iyer as the last.
Okay, right.
So Rashmi, you can go ahead.
Yes.
I have unmuted myself. Thank you so much for such a beautiful session, Arunji. It was enlightening and quite humbled with, the whole technique and the way you have touched upon, because in my journey, I believe coaching has come to me as a meditation. I've started enjoying my work to that extent. My
Excellent.
short question to you is,
Yes,
when there
please.
are some triggers which happen and you miss your balance and you get displaced from your inner calmness,
Yeah.
to restore it back in that moment,
Yeah.
is just the silence and stillness which will work, or is there any other tool which you have experienced?
Yeah. Yeah. So the short answer is that yes, pause immediately. Pause, press the pause button. Don't go further. Press the pause button. You don't have to physically do it, but metaphorically press the pause button and watch your breathing. Watch your breathing. Watch your breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. And when you watch your breathing, you find that it brings you back into the now. It brings you back to the presence and silence of the moment, right? So breathing. Now breathing, if you look at the word breathing, on one side is being and the other side is earth. So breathing is a beautiful bridge between being and earth, between the outer and the inner. So use breathing as a way to bring your energy back.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Last question from Iyer Subramaniam.
Yeah, Arun,
yes, sir.
Excellent session, and I have enjoyed this last 1 hour with you. And
thank you very much.
Fantastic. My short question is: I've seen in a lot of the coaching sessions, what happens is that the coachee goes on talking to you and expects some guidance from you or some answer from you.
Yeah.
Many a times one doesn't have an answer, or one doesn't even have a question to ask.
Yeah.
So I have just gone silent and then watched myself, and probably sometimes my silence means going into my stomach, right?
Yeah.
But and I have seen magically after that few 1 or 2 minutes of silence, naturally an answer comes or a question is evoked. I see this as magic, and I just wanted you to explain as to how does this happen, things emerging from total silence.
Yeah. So Iyer Subramanian, what happens is, I think this is exactly what I was alluding to when I was saying being. What happens is when you get out of the way, when the I gets out of the way, the creative intelligence of life, the intuitive energy of life, the guidance of life begins to start flowing freely. And that's when you get, answers, you get insights, you get guidance. I mean, a lot of my best ideas come early in the morning when I'm just sitting at 4:35. I'm just sitting, relaxed, meditating, and then, okay, do this for this presentation, do this, and the beautiful ideas come. But these ideas and insights are blocked because we are so caught up in the mind, we are so caught up in the past or the future or with performance anxiety that you miss the creative intelligence in the moment. And that's why, so what you're describing is a beautiful example of what happens when you just pause for a moment and allow the intelligence of life to guide you. Yeah, it's a beautiful example. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Most welcome. Most welcome.
Thank you so much, Arun. It was so wonderful. And for friends here, thank you so much for attending today. Arun has put his email ID and his phone number in the chat box. In case if you want to reach to him directly, you can reach him directly.
Yes.
Also, I have posted the link of the webinar CCUs. So kindly fill in and submit the forms if you want the CCUs. And thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Aishwarya, and please convey my best regards to Rajat. Also, if I don't know if he's on the call, but thank you to you and to Coach to Transformation. And a big thank you to all the people who attended, for your questions, for your appreciation, and for all the good things you put in the chat box. Okay? Thanks.
So
have
much.
A lovely time and happy Dashera, everyone.
Yes.
Happy Dashera.
To everyone.
May you remain strong and happy and healthy. Bye. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.